Hey everybody, Brian Loans here, back again with another video about my old school N-Series Ford tractor project. I say it's an N-Series and not a 2N, 9N, or 8N because it's really made up of parts of all three generations of these tractors. And I'm going to make another video, a walkthrough, to show you exactly how mongrel this thing is, but it is really cool. It's been a great father-son project. I've worked on the wiring harness, just replaced that with my son. We've rebuilt the rear end and brakes. We've done ignition work. We've done engine work. And it really is a nice running, functional, fun thing to beat around the neighborhood in. But we wanted to make it, something we could actually use and have some fun with along the way. So that's why I went out and I've been searching for better part of a year to find a snowplow for this thing. And the snowplows for these tractors are, a couple companies made them. The most desirable is the Dearborn snowplow. And frankly, I found one. I was down in Long Island, New York. I had a buddy go grab it for me. I cruised down to Long Island, got it just the other day. And I'm going to walk you through the install of that piece now. And the thing is really cool. It actually came with the factory owner's manual and installation manual. And it's going to be neat to kind of show you the process here. These plows are 75 years old. I mean, this thing was built in the late 1940s, and the one I got is in amazing condition, and it's wholly complete. I'm going to walk you through the different parts and pieces of the plow here in a second, but I just want to talk a little bit about, the process here and what we're going to do to put this on. So there's a bunch of bracketry, there's a big A-frame, and of course there's the plow blade. And over the course of this video, I'm going to show you how to install all those pieces. There are videos on YouTube that show you about the plows and how their basic function, but the reality is I've not seen one that shows how one goes together from A to Z, and that's what we're going to do right here. So before I start bolting on pieces, I wanted to show you the different components of the plow so you understand exactly what's going on here in the simple but ingenious way that it works. So what makes this plow setup so awesome? First off, it is a Dearborn plow made in the 1940s. It is a 19-1 frame and a 19-3 snowplow blade. There was a couple of different blades made. One was a bulldozer blade. This is a snowplow setup. And Dearborn, of course, was a manufacturer of all kinds of different implements for N-Series tractors and Ford tractors. It was actually kind of a subsidiary of Ford. But I got this thing down in Long Island, New York, and I want to walk you around it before I install it on the tractor because it's pretty epic. To find one of these things complete is nearly impossible. And not only to find one complete, but in one that is in for a 75-year-old, 76-year-old implement to be in this type of condition really is amazing. So I'm going to walk you through the different parts of the setup here. So this big frame, this is that 19.1 or 19-1 frame. And basically what's going to happen is this is going to slide underneath the tractor. And you can see in the front, it's got a rag tied on there from when I towed it or dragged it home from Long Island. It was hanging out the back of the truck. But underneath that rag is a kind of a single pivot point. And that's going to be the thing that the plow is going to be able to pivot on once we get it mounted up. You notice the shivs and the cable right there. And we go to the back here and we can see this kind of rig in the rear. So the way this works is, believe it or not, the PTO, or rather the 3-point hitch in the plow is the tractor rather, is what's going to raise and lower the plow. So this bar, when we get it on the tractor, is going to spread across the lift arms of the 3-point hitch. When I raise the 3-point hitch, it's going to pull on those cables. Those cables will lever up and pull the nose up. So this is a fairly easy thing to find. You can find these frames out there on the internet pretty regularly, but usually they're missing cables, or they're missing the cable sheaves or shivs up in the front, or they're missing the lift arm in the back. So it's weird to see that all this stuff intact and in such great shape. You notice the ends of the cables have those nut and bolt arrangement on it. Those nuts and bolts will be received in these brackets that'll go on the front axle. You can note these little kickouts right here. Up in here is where that bolt is going to catch. These are going to be fixed, and it's going to pull against this to raise and lower the frame. These are the brackets that go on the rear axle. And again, you can see this stuff's made out of like 1/4-inch steel. I mean, it is built like an anvil. Right in here, this little receiver pocket is where the kind of pivot arm is going to go in. And you have these little spacer brackets here that have a linchpin that goes out. And then you have the little fork right here. And that's where a chain's going to hang in there. And you can kind of set the depth you want the thing to go. Those are really hard to find parts. If you don't, if you've ever looked for one of these things, to find all this stuff intact is amazing. And then here's the plow blade. So it is a 6-foot wide plow blade. And again, you can see it's in really awesome, complete condition. You can look here and see that it is obviously manually angled. That drop pin right there is you turn the plow to the angle you want, drop the pin in, and it locks it in. Those springs right there, because the plow has kind of a trip angle on it, so it will trip over if you run into a curb or something like that. And again, this thing is just built incredibly tough. You can see the thickness of the steel. I mean, it's just ridiculous. It weighs 1.5 million pounds. It's in really, really good shape, and I can't wait to get it on the tractor. One last thing, you'll note those 3 holes on either side. They sold wings you could bolt onto this thing to kind of make it almost like a modern like box-style plow. I do not have those, and nor do I really need them to do my driveway. But that is a quick overview of the Dearborn 19.1 frame and 19.3 plow. Now to get bolted on. So the first step in the process is replacing those axle brackets I was telling you about. So we got this guy that's going to go on. This guy has to come off, and these are held on by some really big Mondo bolts, 15/16 head on the bolt, and then a 15/16 nut top to bottom. If you have pneumatic tools, probably a quick job. I'm, of course, doing it caveman way with some hand tools, but not bad. Got one out. Going to take that other bolt out and then mount this bracket up in there. I'll show you what it looks like and the correct positioning when I get it in. So here's a look at the finished product on one side of the tractor. You can see how it's bolted on. You can see how that notch is forward, and you can also see how that fork that's going to catch the chain is up. You eagle-eyed N-Series tractor fans will note, and I'm sure you've already seen it, this is not a correct fender for this tractor. I mentioned how much of a mongrel it is. These, I believe, are 1960s era. This bracket that they're on, it looks as though somebody kind of homemade it back in the day. But either way, they'll work for now, and that is what a finished bracket looks like. Going to finish up the other side and move to the front. All right, so with the back of the tractor completed, we're going to go ahead and move to the front of the tractor and put on our front cable guides and brackets. As you can see, N-Series tractors have a series of holes. Now, the reason these are here is because you could adjust the width of the front axle on these tractors, depending on what you were doing. You could spread the front wheels apart, or you could bring them in. The plow recommendation is that you have the factory setting of 48 inches across set. That's the factory holes are being used here. So basically, I'm just going to remove these 2 bolts, place the bracket up there, and replace the 2 bolts. Now, it is important, you have to remember to support your tractor as you're doing this, because as you take these bolts out, you can see that the kind of split beam style of the axle is right there. You don't want the thing flopping over on its side. So make sure you get something underneath it, support the tractor, and then bolts in, bolts out. And these are both 15/16 head bolt and nut, just like they were in the back. Going to do this side, I'll do the other side, and show you the completed product. So I pulled the tractor outside now, and you can see I've put those cable guides on the front. And really all that's left now is to position my A-frame, which is right here behind the tractor. I'm going to lug it over, and then I'm going to back the tractor up over top of it. And then I'll show you how to affix it to the tractor. Real simple. All right, so as you can see, I have backed the tractor over the A-frame. You can see how far it protrudes out the front, not too bad. The business end of this thing is back here, and I'll show you how I got it on there. I wrestled with it for a little while and then decided I'm an idiot, and I just put it on the floor jack. And so with the floor jack, I was able to bring it up to the proper height. And if we look over here, be able to see those axle brackets I put on. You can see the pin is in there. Put the lock collar on it as well. I got to put a linch pin in it. Here's the chain hook that I was telling you about. You just have to set the height we want for the frame. And on the other side, it's the same story. So lift it up, pin slides into that receiver slot. You put that little blocking plate on there to prevent it from coming out of the slot. Linch pin holds it all together. The last thing's going to be to put the lift bar on. Now, this lift bar, as you can see, somebody tried to use it as a drawbar at one point. And as we look at the shape of it, it should be a lot flatter across. It's going to work for the time being. I'm going to bring it to a buddy's shop who has a press and just have him put it in the press and kind of press the center back. But you can see where somebody kind of made mincemeat out of this thing, likely trying to use it as a tow bar of sorts. Going to put that on. Next thing you'll see is hopefully me putting the plow on. So I almost forgot to tell you about one of the most important parts of the process, which is, of course, hooking up those lift cables that run from the back to the front of the tractor. So I got my floor jack into the front of the A-frame to give myself some slack. You just simply bring the cables up. There's a washer here, and you get this nut. They snake right in there. See that? And this whole works, drops down. Boom. One side. Go around. Put our cable. Our nut and washer assembly hooks right in there. Drops down in there. Drop our jack. And we are in business. Next step, attaching the plow. So the last part of this operation before we have the grand finale of the plow actually doing something, we lined the plow up with the A-frame, kind of muscled it on there. Used my floor jack to raise it a little bit. And if I've done this right, my pin should drop in, and my big giant bolt will need a little persuasion, but this bolt will come up through here. I'm going to put the nut on, and then you should hopefully see a functional snowplow. Well, I'm happy to report our full package is functional. Now, it's not totally perfect yet, and the thing I'm going to have to fix tomorrow or very soon is right here. That bar, as I mentioned before, is way too kinked up in here. So I'm going to get it pressed so it spreads out. It spreads it out a little farther left to right. It'll fit a whole lot better and be correct. You also notice that I'm not going to be able to go to full height on the plow, because if I do, it's going to run into the PTO, which is spinning around right there. But A-frame, cables running back down the length of the tractor, hooked on to this lift bar back here. Now I'm going to go over to my handy dandy 3-point hitch lever. So I come up with the 3-point, it's going to lift up. I'm going to see our plow come up. Again, I'm not going to full height because of the fact that I don't want that to hit the crossbar. But as I go down, the plow goes down to the ground. Again, up, down. Up on the 3-point, up to my snowplow. Up on my 3-point, up on my snowplow, down, and down. Pretty awesome. 80-year-old dish technology, works like a champ, and so doesn't the old tractor. More fun projects to come, but I'm glad this one's ready, and it'll probably never snow again now that I've done this, but damn, it looks cool. Thanks for checking this out. Hopefully you can find a Dearborn 19.1 frame and 19.3 plow for yourself. I know I'm going to have a lot of fun with this one.